This is Derek Fing bringing you the bleeding, stinking mad chatter of Jesus in the fiction of Flannery by Robert Drake. Defending the Bible from new translations, not for theology, but literary content, are the same people who hate O'Connor and her personal Jesus. The kind of people who read Paradise Lost or Divine Comedy as pieces of poetry and not for its theological leanings. To those people, Jesus is something to be hid, something of a bygone era that has no place today. How dare she truly believe the things that are in the Bible, even though she isn't long gone from the world? She uses the grotesque to point out the wicked. In these modern times, it's the perceived intellectual to ignore the tradition and the church and believe what you want. She was a Roman Catholic living in the Protestant South. Yet those who were as though they were Pentecostal in a revival meeting and who think the Pope's the Antichrist. But she had more in common with the holy rollers than the godless intellectual who use the Bible as a habit than as a form of faith, who pick and choose what to believe rather than follow as designed. So what is religion in the world today, where there is no room for people to play? Most people make excuses and leave it to their mothers, like a time long forgotten. Progress is taken over. O'Connor knew what was what, that you could not compromise. Life is a test by Jesus in his tiger's eyes. So it's obvious as her major theme that Christian religion is scandalous, and the offensive stumbling Jesus, alayhi salam, even the bleeding, stinking, mad Messiah to some. He upsets the balance, he puts the bottom top. There is no Lamb of Jesus, of a Tiger of Christ, who screams, "Choose ye this day whom ye serve," trying to recapture the spirit of the primeval church. O'Connor's main forte was the short story, because the intensity and irony are hard to sustain for a novel. Her first novel, Wise Blood, had her trademark characters and themes, but she was trying to say too much too soon. Man cannot save himself, not with sex or technology, and Christ, when accepted, is terrible and scandalous. Apparent grotesque may be the blessed, and the concept of straightness to contrast the twisted. What think ye of Jesus, screams the tiger Christ. In the good man is hard to find. We see her at work in the title story with the family meeting a violent death at the hands of a killer called the Misfit. The family is obnoxious, and when the grandma asks him to pray for Jesus to help, he replies, Jesus shouldn't raise the dead. He threw it all off balance. He did what he said he did, and then there's nothing for you to do but throw it all away and follow him. But if he didn't, enjoy the last minutes you got. I don't want no help. I'm doing fine by myself. Winning from us a grudging admiration, taking on the issue by the horns, then ignoring it to avoid the scorn. The Misfit was anti-Christ-like, but far from the first. In the river, we have a boy being chased by the evil Mr. Paradise. In the life you save may be your own, we see Mr. Shiflett lead people to damnation. In Good Country People, we have Manly Pointer, who was a right devil, but no fool like Olga. So what is religion in the world today, where there is no room for people to play? Most people make excuses and leave it to their mothers, like a time long forgotten. Progress is taken over. O'Connor knew what was what, that you could not compromise. Life is a test by Jesus in his tiger's eyes. Women are an odd bit in the world of O'Connor. Sex is never mentioned, nor a happy family life. More often than not, Christ breaks up the family, true to the gospel promise. There are also the villains more often than not. Like a spiritual double standard, as far from God as love, men are scandalous as Christ himself. Green leaf has an important symbolism, for Mrs. May had a vision of judgment on the end of a horn. She had thought to save herself by works, she said. By any judgment I've not wallowed. As opposed to Mrs. Greenleaf and her carrying on, she thought that religion had warped her without moderation, but moderation in religion is the true warping. Salvation does not come from works or the self. On through Christ and His gospel are we free. The gospel is not for peace, but for the sword. O'Connor sings in presentation that denied her a wider audience. But even for its value, most don't accept an uncompromising frame of mind, though in conclusion most agree her view of humans is fairly fine. For all its horror and its darkness, Georgia's no distant land, and we are none strangers there. So what is religion in the world today, where there is no room for people to play? Most people make excuses and leave it to their mothers, like a time long forgotten, progress has taken over. O'Connor knew what was once that you could not compromise. Life is a test by Jesus in His tiger's eyes.